The Monster Jam live motorsport event tour began life in 1992, and its license has been used for a number of video games over the years based on the monster trucks involved. Monster Jam Steel Titans 2 is the latest game, joining its predecessor, which is also available on the Switch. Are we in for a monster good time, or will it be, well, trucking awful? I'm Glen Bolger, thank you to the publishing team for the review code, and now, let's find out. Now, in terms of the Monster Jam series itself, or monster truck competitions in general, I do just want to say I know very little about it. We don't really go in for that much over here, so apologies if I miss any obvious references. In terms of the gameplay then, Monster Jam Steel Titans 2 begins with a quick tutorial of the basic moves and then drops you off in the first of its open world sections. From here you are free to roam around, looking for the secret collectibles that can be found or performing stunts and combos that earn you XP, and we'll talk more about this later. The main areas to visit in the open world areas though are the garages or the main gateways that take you to the career mode. Career mode is the main part of the game. It consists of a number of chapters, each taking part in either an arena or an outdoors area, and comprising of a number of events in which you are scored before being given a final standing in a league table. There are a few different events that become available throughout the career mode, and a selection of these include head-to-head, which is a race against another truck with the winner advancing to the next round, freestyle, which scores you for pulling off stunts, time destruction, where you are scored by how many objects you break, breaking them in quick succession will keep your combo meter going, two-wheel skill competitions or waypoint races, where you are free to race how you want, taking any path through the terrain as long as you get to the waypoints. I found some of these much more enjoyable than others. I really did enjoy the freedom of the waypoint races, as they made for quite a unique experience among racing games in general, not just in terms of the events found here. But personally, I really didn't like the more structured races. The courses were at times quite confusing, plus if you put so much as one tyre off the track, and I mean just scrape the grass verge next to the dirt track, the game considers you off track and resets you. This happened so often, to be honest, I hardly tried when one of these races came up and just waited for the next event, hoping it would be one I liked a bit more. The rest of the events fell somewhere in between these two extremes. Winning an event will not only earn you tournament standing points, but will also earn each individual truck you use the aforementioned XP, and over time the trucks will level up, improving them in areas such as suspension, tyres and transmission. A word on the trucks then, and they are the official trucks as far as I can ascertain from the Monster Jam license, and each of them have their own strengths and weaknesses, making some of them better suited to stunt events and others for racing, for example. This means that you will have to be fairly proficient in at least a couple of them. You begin with just a couple, and more will be unlocked via making progression in some of the gameplay modes. They are grouped into particular factions, and each of these factions has a unique power available to all of the trucks housed within it. As you make your way through the chapters, more of the open world becomes unlocked, giving you access to more secrets and new garage points. The garages allow you to switch to any of the trucks that you have unlocked so far, as well as also letting you partake in a few area specific challenges. As well as this, they house the more advanced tutorials if you want to practice any of the events or techniques the game has thrown at you so far. Outside of this, there is a Career Plus mode to unlock and an Arena Championship mode called The Big Show. Strangely though, because you are dropped straight into the open world setting, these are actually hidden away in the pause menu, and I didn't even discover them until a couple of hours in. This bizarre choice of presentation does point to a general lack of polish in the game, and we will definitely cover this in more detail later. Online and local multiplayer modes are included, although I did attempt the online and unfortunately it was completely empty. Control wise, you accelerate by holding down ZR and reverse with ZL. The left stick controls your front two wheels, whilst the right stick is the back two wheels. This control scheme allows you to perform certain stunts or make tighter turns without flipping your vehicle. If you do find yourself off of your wheels though, you can reset the truck by holding down the A button. The controls themselves are quite responsive, to be fair, and I don't have an issue with them in and of themselves. My main issue is with the weight or lack thereof of the trucks. The physics of a huge truck smashing through environments is just completely off. Sometimes the weight feels pretty good as you make your way up ramps, other times you'll pinball around the environment as if you were a chocolate wrapper drifting about on a summer's breeze. Parts of your truck will fly off without this having the necessary impact or gravitas that it should, and a couple of times I just ghosted through an oncoming car as if it wasn't there. It's a shame that the physics are so off, as the responsiveness of the controls itself is pretty decent. Gameplay is hit and miss in terms of the events, but things are varied enough that you won't mind sitting through a dud one if one of your favourites comes up next and it scores 14 out of 20. Controls are quite responsive, but the trucks themselves are nowhere near weighty enough, and therefore the physics just aren't there and they get 12 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, well, that's where that lack of polish I mentioned earlier really comes to the forefront. The trucks themselves, whilst officially licensed and therefore containing a decent amount of detail in that respect, have such a low resolution look about them that the majority of the detail is lost. Drivers, trucks, arenas, everything just has that low res feel. The use of colour, especially in the open world areas, is also very oversaturated. Certain buildings look so bright, you'll feel as if you took a wrong turn somewhere on the dirt track and ended up at Barney's Playhouse. Then you have the problem of popping, which isn't too bad early on in the game with the draw distance being quite decent, but it does get worse in some of the later areas, and whilst it's not as bad in the early area, this itself has a problem with level of detail draw distance. Trees, rocks and buildings will not render until you are incredibly close to them, and the aforementioned oversaturation of colours exacerbates this issue as it makes the sudden appearance all the more noticeable. In terms of the audio, a selection of rock songs make up most of the soundtrack and these fit the action well. It did seem quite disappointing that there was no commentary of the stadium events, not even introductions of the trucks or teams participating. It just makes everything feel a bit flat and lacks the showmanship I would associate with such events, but perhaps this is true to the real thing, I don't know. Visuals are incredibly poor and unfortunately bring the experience down. They get just 8 out of 20. Audio is one of the better parts of the game, but at the same time doesn't really do much to stand out, and it scores 12 out of 20. Monster Jam Steel Titans 2 costs £36.74 and regional equivalents are on the screen now. For this price you are getting a career mode which consists of 20 chapters, 38 vehicles, 5 open world areas to unlock, challenges and other game modes, plus local multiplayer and an admittedly sparse online mode. With this content you will be getting a decent amount of hours out of it, and the gameplay is thankfully one of the better parts of the game. However, even with all of this in mind, this is absolutely not a £37 game. The lack of polish is painfully evident, not just in terms of the visuals, but also in terms of the general presentation and layout of the game's options and modes. There is a physical version available and I would imagine it will drop in price pretty quickly, so as far as I'm concerned, this would be the way to go for anyone remotely interested. Value gets 9 out of 20. To conclude, Monster Jam Steel Titans 2 isn't the absolute train wreck that the score will probably suggest. The gameplay is decent and I liked the waypoint races quite a lot, but other parts aren't as much fun, and then you have the shoddy presentation and the incredibly high price, which will kill this game as a viable option for purchasing to pretty much anyone but hardcore Monster Jam fans. It's one of those guilty pleasure games I feel, and there will be some people that get enjoyment out of it, but for that to be the case for me, you'd have to be picking it up for a lot less than it's going for at the minute. Monster Jam Steel Titans 2 gets a SwitchUp score of 45%. Thank you everybody for watching, I hope you enjoyed that review. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. Apologies if I've criticised something that is the way it is in terms of the licence itself. As I said, we don't really go in for monster trucking over here in the UK so much. A quick thank you to our Patreons for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, stay safe of course, and until next time, happy gaming.